Hey, what is up, guys? Tyler here with Secureteam. Thank you all for stopping by. We all love to learn about our history, whether it be the history of the universe, history of mankind, and we rely heavily on what scientists and researchers and historians and archaeologists tell us. The only problem is, once you actually do a little bit more digging rather than just what you're taught in school, turns out that we don't know a damn thing. And so in today's video, I want to talk about a few different examples of these unexplainable things that will no doubt likely cause us to have to rewrite history. The biggest of those has recently come in a new discovery and report that has been all over the web over the past week after a set of 9.7 million year-old teeth were discovered in Germany, which now has researchers, archaeologists, and scientists it's shut them up, basically, and is yet again forcing us truly, one of the first times where it actually may force us to rewrite human history. And so these two teeth that were discovered near the Rhine River could completely topple the understanding of our earliest history. After a little over a year ago, a team of archaeologists in southwestern Germany uncovered two teeth where the Rhine River used to flow in the town of Eppelsheim near Mainz. News of the discovery was announced this past week because the team that performed the excavation wanted to make sure that what they had found was as significant as they initially thought. Now, scientists are saying that these teeth resemble closely the teeth of the 3-million-year-old Lucy skeleton, which is said to be the skeleton of an early human ape-like species, which again is dated to be around 3.2 million years old. And so what's baffling scientists is that we have these new teeth, which are 6 million years older. And so despite the teeth's resemblance to the Lucy skeleton, scientists say that the teeth don't resemble any other species that's ever been discovered in Europe or Asia, which would mean that the teeth belong to a species as of yet undiscovered, millions of years older than we could have ever thought they existed. And so here we have a legitimate discovery that is going to force us to have to rewrite human history and what we know. And to be honest, we don't know what we know. The facts and the evidence change every 10 years or so. In a recent video, we were talking about the strange rock carvings in the sides of volcanoes discovered out in the barren deserts of Saudi Arabia that were created at a time when the area was extremely volatile and active, with volcanoes erupting all around. They can't explain it. And if you haven't seen that video, go ahead and check it out. I posted it a couple of days ago, so it's a very interesting finding, and once again, causes us to rethink our history. Now, another favorite of mine that I like to bring up, another unexplainable instance that throws a wrench into the archaeologist's clean-cut account of what exactly happened, is the story of the so-called Sea People, who in 1200 BC literally came from the ocean and began destroying virtually every major city of the ancient world. And we have no idea who they were. And this is where things start to get spooky. We hear talk of a possible alien race that comes from the ocean. There's the possibility that they were Atlanteans. Nobody knows for sure. But what we do know is that the year of 1200 BC was a terrible century for people living around the Mediterranean. The major empires of the time, the Hittites, the Mycenaeans, and the Egyptians, were going through a rough decline after a long golden age. And to add insult to injury, suddenly a massive army of barbarians came out of nowhere and started burning their cities to the ground. We refer to them as the Sea Peoples, because of course, to this day, we still have no idea who they were, where they came from, or what they wanted. So the first place to face this wrath of these mysterious invaders was Anatolia, in what is now modern-day Turkey. By all accounts, Anatolia was one of the most powerful areas in the Mediterranean, which is why the king of the Anatolian city, Ugarit, was understandably taken aback and more than a little spooked when emissaries from a neighboring king arrived with a desperate plea for assistance against a band of unknown attackers. Urugit sent their own military to help ward off the mysterious aggressors, but even that wasn't enough. The Sea People burned the city to the ground and then marched to Urugit to burn it to the ground as well, all before disappearing back into their underwater kingdom. So then a few years later, the same thing happened to Kadesh, a major trading center in modern-day Syria. After that, they continued to burn their way through the cradle of civilization to such a violent extent that they wound up reshaping the landscape of the ancient world. Eventually, though, they got cocky and attacked Egypt. The Egyptians were the only nation powerful enough to stand up to the Sea People. But that's not to say that the mysterious ocean ravagers didn't put up one hell of a fight. After 2 massive invasion attempts with heavy losses on both sides, the Sea People finally decided to eat crow before sinking away again, presumably back to Atlantis. And so who were these invaders who managed to walk over the most powerful civilizations on Earth like the aliens in the Independence Day movie? And modern scholars have various theories, all of which have never been confirmed, because the only human beings who knew and who ever met the Sea People were too busy being stabbed or set on fire to ask them where they came from and what they were there after. The entire situation and story is very eerie and is reminiscent of a story called The Doom That Came to Sarnath, which is about an underwater civilization of lizard people who tear down the most powerful city in the world on the eve of its 1000th anniversary. And so to this day, again, we have theories as to whether these were some sort of alien hybrids coming from Atlantis or some other deep water under ocean city or base. And it yet again does not fit in with our current telling and understanding of our history. Another great example is that of the giant stone heads of Central America, which we have no idea still to this day how they got there. Now, people were surprisingly good at moving giant stones around in ancient times, and we have some pretty good ideas today about how regular old human beings could have put these awe-inspiring structures together. But then we have something called the Olmec colossal heads that were carved by the Olmec civilization in Central America. Now, the Olmecs were thought to be the oldest civilization in the Americas, predating even the Incas or the Mayas or the Aztecs by hundreds of years. And while cutting a person's face into a giant piece of rock isn't exactly beyond the realm of possibility, but what's so strange and fascinating and unexplainable is the fact that the Olmec heads are carved from something called volcanic basalt, which at the time in the area was located some 80 miles from where the Olmec ultimately settled, with each head weighing close to 20 tons, and the Olmecs never having got around to inventing the wheel. And so the question is, how did they get these massive, immense rocks through 80 miles of sweltering, hostile jungle? And before you say, well, it's obvious they did it the same way that the Egyptians did, you have to consider that dragging slabs of impossible weight across a desert is entirely different than figuring out how to carry a bunch of stones, each weighing approximately the same amount as Optimus Prime, across 80 miles of dense foliage, spiders, snakes, and the occasional 150-foot plateau. The same techniques simply wouldn't work. And so modern science still doesn't know how or why the Olmecs dedicated such a huge amount of effort into dragging these massive heads through such an impassable terrain. And it is for this reason, once again, that when it comes to history, what we know today is at best a rough draft. And so yeah, these are just a couple of my favorite examples, and here we have the new discovery of these 2 teeth, almost 10 million years old, from a species we've never heard of, and that predate any other bones or skeletons that we have today. So, very intriguing times. I think the Earth has a secret and magnificent history, along with an almost definite link to an off-world presence. So with that, let me know what you guys think as always, and thank you for stopping by. Be sure to share this video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and stay tuned because I've got a lot more coming, and you guys know that I'll be back in just a bit.